What's up, guys? What's going on? I'm Paul. This is Pauline Theology's daily devotional, man, and we are going through the book of John. This is Trust in Jesus Ministries. What we do here is help you to trust in Jesus more. And so if you're looking to know Jesus a little bit more, whether it's to just figure out who he is, to see if he's worthy of trust, or if it's to trust in him deeper in every aspect of your life, you're in the right place, man, because that's what we do here. We're reading through the scriptures on a daily basis so that we can know Jesus more, know God more. And as we know God more, then I hope and my goal, because it's Trust in Jesus Ministries, is that in this, we would trust in him more with every aspect of our lives, man. So we're doing that through John today. And what we got is John chapter 13, verse 23. One verse again, man. These one verse things, man, I'm feeling them, man. And I think you guys, y'all said too as well that you're liking the deep dive into these small scriptures. And so, man, I'm glad you are. And, anytime I can, just stress the power and the goodness of just a small section of scripture, man, I'd like to do that because I think that just taking in little bites can help us to know him a little bit more as we see the whole overarching arc. Because we don't want to take it out of context, but we do want to understand it intimately. And so today we got one verse again, and it's verse 23. So what's going on? Well, what needs to happen is that you read that one verse. And if you haven't yet, go ahead and stop the tape, check it out, see what it has to say, come back, and we'll answer the 4 questions, man. And if you have read that verse, then let's get into it, man. One more thing is that I also think that as we just read one verse, or 2 or 3 verses or whatever, it makes it easier as well to continue the study because you're not overwhelmed by the amount of verses or the amount or chunks of scripture that we have to read in order to take something away for our day. So that's one of the reasons as well that we do this. Anyway, what's going on? What's happening in chapter 13, verse 23? Well, we have a character introduced. It says the one whom Jesus loved, or the beloved disciple is what people call. And it says that he was in the bosom of Jesus. He was in the chest of Jesus. Really, that word there is bosom or chest, but it's a idiom for like he was intimate. His heart was close. He was well connected, and he was near Jesus. He was near Jesus. And what we're going to see here as the next verse we're going to talk about is a connection between 2 disciples that seems to continue because in most cases, as we read through the rest of the gospel, we're going to see this beloved disciple pop up a few times. And most of the time, he is coupled with Peter whenever we speak about the beloved disciple. And so I think one thing that we're going to see is an exposure, a light upon what it is to be a disciple. And we're going to see here the light shining upon the ideal disciple. Not to say that he was perfect or anything in any way, but as John writes this, he is going to write this disciple as how the life of discipleship can and should be. And so let's take a deep, intimate look at this, because what it's saying is that there is an intimacy. What that means, the bosom of Jesus, or the nearness that it shows in this word, is the same word kolpo, which is or kolpo, which is in the beginning in chapter 1 when it talks about Jesus being in the kolpo of the Father, in the heart of the Father, in the bosom of the Father. And so we get this kind of alignment. Obviously, we're not going to be able to have that same relationship as that was intimate from eternity's past to eternity future. But it is saying that there is a sense of this intimacy that we get to share with Jesus and with the Holy Trinity, as we are brought and caught up in the relationship or life in his name, as John has been writing about and Jesus has been talking about through this whole thing. And so this right here shows that the beloved disciple, not that he's loved more or anything than the other disciples, but just a recognition and a factor, because They never name who this disciple is. John never names who the disciple is. And it's because he wants this title to be a representation of the ideal relationship that we should have with Jesus. And so we should be intimate, fully intimate with Jesus. With Jesus. What's to say about God? It says that God desires intimacy with his disciples. As we're going to see continually as we read this example of discipleship, is that Jesus desires to be intimately involved with us. He wants us to share every detail, every aspect, and then follow him as he gives witness and demonstrations and examples and his very life for us. He wants to share in this relationship so that we might share in a relationship with the Father and with the Spirit. This is the desire of Yahweh. What does this say about man? I think that this says that we have the ability to have great intimacy with Jesus. That this is not something so distant. This is not something so far. Even though God is great, magnified, manifested on high above all things, that he still desires to be intimate and personal with his creation. That is what we can all enjoy the bosom of the Father through Jesus. We can all enjoy a intimacy that is unlike any other, to be loved and cherished by the Father through the Son in the power of the Spirit. That's what it says about mankind. So how do we apply these truths to our lives, man? Find that intimacy, man. You've got to. You've got to. That is the reason why I'm doing this. That's the reason why I'm making these videos, writing these blogs, going out in my van and witnessing and sharing the gospel, because I know the intimacy of God and how powerfully changing it is when you find it, when you find life. And so that's what I ask of you. Seek out that intimacy. Know who he is. And that's through his scripture, man. And that is through the way he reveals himself to you, man. Continue to find and know him more. I appreciate you guys for listening, and I will see you in the next episode.